Okay, so we are um, getting on through the levels of the PsiChiR challenge for March. We've read our data in, we've selected just the variables that we need to make our data frame easier to work with. We've sorted those variables by GPA, both low to high, and then the other way around. And we've got some summary stats using summary and skim from the skimmer package, and using summarize, which is a function out of the dplyr package. Now, when I was doing these summary stats, it took me a while to work out how to make summarize work. And I finally realized that the reason summarize didn't seem to work as well or as easily as I thought it should was that the data isn't long. So let me explain to you what I mean by long data. So the data we have here is as you would enter it in Excel, with a score for each participant for each condition across the rows. But if we're wanting to compare scores across these conditions, we actually want to create a column that has condition and have the scores long. Now, what do I mean by that? So R really likes data to be tidy. And to read about tidy data, I suggest you go to the Bible of RStats books, which is called R for Data Science by Hadley Wickham. And there's a chapter in here all about tidy, how important it is that your data is tidy. Now, ggplot only works with tidy data, but I think, as it turns out, dplyr functions work better when your data is tidy as well. So this is what I mean by tidy. The rules for tidy data is that each variable must have its own column, and each observation must have its own row, and each value must be its own cell. And that means that for data like ours, we have information about more each column contains information about more than one thing, right? So what we really want to do is pull these 4 columns that contain information about, let's say, the 4 conditions of our experiment into a single column called condition, and have one other column called score. And that'll make summarize work better, and that'll be essential if we want to plot something using ggplot. So let me show you how to use the new pivot functions out of dplyr. So we're going to make our wide data long. I'm going to do that using the pivot longer function. Now, so let's make a new thing in an environment called March long using the assignment tool, and we're going to take our March small data frame that we've already got in our environment, and we're going to pipe it into a pivot longer function. Now, the nice thing, see how this little yellow thing pops up? It tells you what the arguments that this function expects are. And the key ones for pivot longer are names to, values to, and then the range of columns that you want to make long. So names to just wants to know what you want to call the column that currently the names of the variables will go into. So we want to call this column condition. Right? So we have 4 conditions of our experiment. And then the values to is what you want to call the name, what the name of the column that will have the values in it should be called, and that's score, right? Now, because each of these columns condition, the new columns that we're making it will be called condition and score, and they're not created yet. So we have to put what we want to call them in quotes. And then the last thing it wants to know is the range of columns that you want to, that are currently wide, that you want to make long. So if we look at our March small data, we actually want these 4 columns. So white, score, POC score, male score, and female score. And you can tell it a range of columns using the colon. So I want from white score through female score. Oops. Is that right? Yes, from white score through to female score, right? And so if we run that line of code using Command Enter, you'll see we now have a new data frame in our environment called March long. And you can see how this has gone from our original March small data frame had 247 observations of 8 variables. Our March long one has 988 observations of 6 variables. And so if we open that, you can see that now for each participant, so this first participant is age 21, for each participant there's now 4 values, one for white score, one for POC, one for male, one for female. And then for the next participant, they're all on top of each other. There are also 4 values, white, POC, male, and female. Right, now the reason that this this long format works better when it comes to dplyr and ggplot is that it allows you to do group by something and then summarize. So I'm going to add a new chunk and I'm going to get the same summary stats that I got before in way less code. So I'm going to take our new March long data and I'm going to pipe it into a group by, and I want to group by condition because I want to get each of these means and standard deviations separately for each condition. I'm going to group by condition and then do another pipe. So this is the power of the pipe. You can string together a sequence of functions, and what the pipe essentially means is, and then do this, and then do this. We're going to take our March long data and group by condition, and then summarize. The mean is going to be equal to the mean of the score column, and the standard deviation is equal to standard deviation of the score column, right? And then if I run that, you can see that the output here is this really nice little table that gives the mean and standard deviation separately for each condition. So that's why it's really handy to turn your data from wide format into long format, because it makes using functions out of dplyr and in a moment ggplot much, much easier.